So, hi everyone. So this is Gauri and I'm your host today. So before we get into the debate competition, I have a quote and ideas and true innovation need human interaction, conflict, argument, and debate. And this is what we're here to do: have a debate, have a hearty discussion about stuff that we're concerned about. So let us go on to the topic for today. Divyansh, if you could screen share. Okay, so our topic is sex education should be mandatory in schools. And now I would like to introduce our judges. So for our first, we have Ms. Gunjan ma'am. Ma'am, she is a second year student and she's pursuing a bachelor's in journalism and mass communication at Maharaja Agrasen College, IT University. She's very fond of reading and writing and has participated in a multitude of debate events right from class 6. Our next judge is Aditya Rajan. Our next judge, Aditya Rajan, has just completed his first year at Ashoka University, Delhi, where he's pursuing a BA degree in economics and finance. His interests are markets and finance, as well as more specific subjects like history. In his spare time, he enjoys watching Formula One and Peak Wash. So, judges, do you like to address our participants?
Hello, everyone, and thank you for
Judges, would you like
inviting me
to
to this
address our
platform.
participants?
Hi, am I audible, Gauri?
Welcome, ma'am.
Am I audible, Gauri?
Yes, you are, ma'am.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to this
Uh,
platform, and
Aditya Ranjan,
all the
are you
best to
here
you
with
all.
us? Uh, Okay, so we'll move on to the rules now. So we have a few set of rules which all of you are expected to follow. So the first rule is reading from any sort of paper or any sort of piece of literature is strictly prohibited. And then turning off camera, which I would request every participant to turn on your camera right now, because if you do not do that, it will result in negative marking, and it can also result in you being out of this competition. Then, when I call a code name, please respond within 5 seconds of the call since we're time constrained. Otherwise, we shall move on to the next person. The result shall be disclosed after the day ends, and no misbehavior shall be entertained. Grading for the participants will be based on the initial argument and as well as the answers given by them to questions asked. So each participant will have 4 minutes in this round, and in those 4 minutes, they have to have an initial argument and their counterparts. For example, B10 can rebuttal with B11, but B10 cannot rebuttal with B21, and that is how that is going to work. And so a rebuttal, the judge's question, everyone should be wrapped within those 4 minutes, so you can structure that according to your time. And yeah, I just wish everybody all the best. And do we have our first participant, which is B10, who would be speaking for the motion that sex education is mandatory in school, here with us?
Should
Okay,
I start?
so uh, can you please start at the countdown, Divyansh? Okay, I'll time you. Um, so Yeah, you can start.
Shh. Don't use the S word. Don't let them know you know. Don't let anyone know how you feel. The schools do not even allow us to talk about this S word, sex education. How do you expect them to teach us about it? How do you expect them to remove the stigma? Greetings to the house today. Today, I, Pakshi Rajpal, I'm going to talk about for the motion sex education should be mandatory in schools. Ladies and gentlemen, there was a chapter in class 8th and 10th in biology. It was around reproductive health. And the teachers, they usually skipped it. Why can't they teach us about what sex is? Why can't they teach us about basic sex education, about basic contraceptive methods? This way, the students of today who will experience these things later in life are unaware of these things, and they suffer from HIV AIDS. They suffer from unintended pregnancies. And in order to prevent that, we have to implement that in schools, and not just in class 9, 10th, 11th, 12th grade who are involved in these things, but also to the kindergarten students about basic hygienic things, about how to take care about their basic personal hygiene. Ladies and gentlemen, there are many girls, especially in my school, as I have experienced it. We are still ashamed of taking a sanitary napkin out and taking it to the washroom. Why? Why is the stigma still persist? Ladies and gentlemen, I would just like to say that before we start to implement sex education, before we start to implement sex education and have a proper curriculum for it, we have to remove the stigma. We have to develop proper curriculum and teach each and everyone what sex education is, how to know about the sexual orientation, how to not feel vulnerable when they want to discover their sexual orientation, about what they feel, about what safe sex is. We have to be comfortable with them. The teachers should be taught how to not feel ashamed when a child comes to them to talk about something that is very important, because even the teachers experience it. But why can't they talk to the children about it? Right? So when we talk about sex education, it is very important. It See, if we start to implement it from today, it's 2021 century, it should have been implemented way back. But if we have to still implement it, if we have the room to implement it, we are in the pandemic, everything has changed, everything has evolved. Why not to start it? We are not in the confined classrooms today. We have nothing to be ashamed of. The children who do not know what they feel vulnerable about their sexual orientation should be allowed to talk to someone. They have to talk to someone, or else it leads to suicides. Children like me who can experience HIV AIDS or unintended pregnancies, they should be allowed to talk to the school, and it should be taught in school how to prevent these things. Lastly, I would just like to say that sex education should be mandatory,
B10.
and it yes. Is my time up?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that your time is coming to an end. So I would like to now ask B11.
Okay.
Do you have any rebuttal question for B10?
I do. She mentioned that teachers
Yeah.
generally skip chapters that deal with reproduction and sex. When do they
Yes.
ever skip? Like it's in our NCERT course, so it's their duty to teach us, and they do. Like, and if they skip, then it's the problem. It's entirely the problem of the school curriculum. Like, it has nothing to do with specifically sex education, because it's I think it would be specific to your school that you're talking about, that they skip those chapters. Otherwise, it doesn't happen usually.
Okay. B11, I would just like to say that what I mean is the mindset of teachers. See, no, not just my school. I've heard so many people, my friends, the specific part that deals with contraceptive methods, the teachers are like, "Ab khud pad lena." Because they do not teach us that, because they're too ashamed. They're not open to us so
But
that they can
that's
actually talk about it.
minority, right? You cannot expect the minority to win over majority. That's what I'm saying. I'm not contradicting your fact. I'm just saying that you cannot expect minority to win over majority. That's what I'm saying.
That's not minority. Most of the teachers have that mindset, and I'm talking about the
Okay,
bigger picture and not just the
I
minority.
agree. The teachers have that mind, they it is mandatory for them to teach it in their schools. Otherwise, the students can complain to the higher authorities and they can get sued for that. That's what I'm saying.
The children, they take this as a joke. That's what the problem is. They don't take sex education seriously, and they have to, because it is very important, and they do
Again,
not complain it to the higher authority, because the higher authority is
Okay,
as narrow minded as them.
B1011.
Thank you.
Uh, B10, B11. B11. I would ask you to talk now. Have a 10.
Ma'am,
Judges,
you're
any
not
questions?
audible.
Judges, do you have any questions for B10?
Yes, I do have a question. Am I audible, B10?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you mentioned in your speech that that kindergarten student kids should be taught about the hygiene. So what you mean to say, like we should taught sex education from the kindergarten? I mean, how
Yes.
could you teach someone that thing? I mean, they're not gonna use it like in the kindergarten, obviously. So shouldn't they be
Okay.
taught in high school instead of kindergarten?
I would just like to
Yeah.
mention that sex education is not only just confined to what sex is. It is many things. It is about sexual orientation. It is about basic hygiene that you have to keep. And kindergarten students should know that. It should be in your mindset, because that mindset develops from very young. That when the stigma develops, it does not develop when you're in high school. It is persisting since you're 5 or 6, and it should be taught, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, B10. Uh, uh, Thank you. Does any other judge have a question? Okay, so we're going to move along to B11. B11, are you ready?
yes.
Yeah,
Can I
so
start?
you're going to be speaking against the motion, and
Yes.
your time starts now. You can start.
This house strongly believes that sex education should not be mandatory in schools. The primary teachers of children are their parents. It is their right and responsibility to teach sexual mortality to their children. Public school sex ed classes ignore individual differences among children and break down the natural modesty that is very, very natural to boys and girls. See, nothing except the nature is perfect. People of both mindsets exist, the negative mindset and the positive mindset. The openness we're talking about here has been existing from times immemorial in Europe and America, but this is not so with India. We hesitate to talk about the topic with our parents, who are our closest friends and who should be the ones we talk about this topic to first. My opinion is that sex ed should be taught to Indian parents before the children because it's them who can explain it the most perfectly to their children, and they should be needed to made more most acquainted with the topic, and they should be the first ones to discuss it with their children. When children are taught academics such as math and reading, they are given material suitable to their level of readiness for this material. Yet, when it comes to the extremely sensitive area of sexuality, all children in the same grade level are given the same material, even if they're not yet physically or psychologically ready for the material. This is very insensitive and harmful. See, the age of 18 is considered average for entering adulthood because 70 out of 100 people mature at this age. Public school sex ed has never shown to reduce teen pregnancy or abortion as an addition. As a matter of fact, a study in March 2002 by issue of Journal Health Economics entitled that uh, family planning or underage conceptions debunks on typical sex ed theory that providing contraceptives to teens will reduce underage um, conceptions and abortions. Indeed, the study found some evidence that greater access to contraception is associated with increase in underage conceptions. What is taught behind the closed doors of the sex ed classroom can never be known by the parents. Learner outcomes and curriculum objectives do not tell the parents the words the teachers use, the actions, their attitudes, responses, and that occur in the sex ed lesson. This means that there is absolutely no way the parents can control or even find out what their children are being taught about sex unless they sit in the classroom with their children for every sex lesson. The public school has no right to judge the quality of information on sexuality that parents provide their children. Some do a good job, some do a poor job. The school has no right to say they must teach sex because they donate, they don't do it like do the job like the parents do. The schools should stay out of the bedroom. Sexuality involves more than plumbing birth control pills.
B11,
Yes.
B11, your time has come to an end. So your time has come to an end. So now we would like to ask B10 if there's a
Yes.
rebuttal question for B11.
I do. Okay, B11, you mentioned that parents should be taught about sex education before the children. But please tell me one thing, that how will a child who is not even comfortable in talking about this with his or her friends, with his or her very teachers, where they actually learn stuff? Because after the school, because mostly if you talk about these small children, whatever they learn in school, they talk about that with their parents, so the parents will evolve when the child evolves when you talk about these sensitive things. So what is your argument for that?
See, I'm literally not contradicting the argument of public school sex education. I'm just saying that there should be an age because giving the same knowledge to everyone of every age group is just it makes everyone uncomfortable and it's just not right. It's very insensitive of everyone. I'm just saying that parents should be the first ones to talk about such a sensitive issue to their children, not teachers. And it doesn't happen because the parents themselves are not acquainted with the topic fully. If they are, then they can talk comfortably about it to their children. Isn't it so?
Can I please? Okay. So you mentioned that the parents should firstly talk about
No,
it, but
sorry,
tell me one.
no follow-up questions are allowed. B10,
Okay, can I
please.
ask another question?
Because we're on B10, sorry, we're on a time
Yes.
constraint, so there will be no
Okay.
follow-up
Thank
questions. Only judges can do that. Judges, you have a question for B11?
Yeah, I have a question. Am I audible? I am? Okay, yes. First of all, sorry for joining the meeting
Yeah.
late. There were issues. But B11, so you mentioned that parents should be the people who
Yes.
students learn from, right? Like about sex education. Well, in a country like India, you already mentioned, and I think B10 also mentioned, that sex is a very taboo topic, and sexuality also is a very uh, yeah, it's a very, it's not well spoken about, and sexuality is often just delegated to you're either straight or you're gay. And even in that, there's a lot of homophobia in India, in modern society. So having said that, like, it's very much possible, especially in rural areas, that parents just do not support homophobic, or not homophobic, sorry, do not support gay marriage, for example. So they teach their children that being gay is wrong, and if that is taught to children, that just passes from one generation to another. So how would you like break that cycle if parents are the one who are teaching? How would you go
See,
with that?
that's what I mentioned in my speech. I said that parents should be the ones who should be properly taught about the topic first. If they would be talk about different sexualities and different sexual orientations, then they would teach it right to their children. That's what I said.
Okay, but what would be the difference then? Why can't you directly teach this to the children and avoid this extra step
Because
of
if
ego
children are
peppering?
not comfortable talking about it to their parents, how do you expect them to be comfortable talking about it to their teachers? That's what I'm saying.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question
Okay.
too. Can you hear
Kunjal ma'am,
me?
do you have a question?
Yes, I do. Can I start?
Yes.
Okay. So you mentioned that parents should be, with student when they're teaching about sex education. But don't you know that
Yeah.
for sex teaching, there are certain teachers which are qualified for that post. So why do we need parents to be there? It's why are we treating sex like a over exaggerate topic? It shouldn't it be a random topic?
It should be, but it's not, unfortunately, in India, and we all know that. And again, I'm saying, repeating one and the same thing again and again. I'm saying that if children are not comfortable talking about it to their parents, how do you expect them to be comfortable talking about it to someone they barely know? If they would be talking about it to their parents, who would be having the knowledge, then don't you think they would be more comfortable talking about the topic? Because it's a very sensitive topic we are dealing with here.
Okay, I'll get your point. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, B11. So next up, we move to B20. B20, are you here with us?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll start the countdown and you're going to be speaking for the motion. Okay, so yeah, go ahead.
I firmly believe that sex education should be made compulsory in schools. In UK, for example, teaching sex education has become mandatory since September 2020, which was not the case previously. We can see the effects of not teaching sex education in classroom. The fundamental gaps in knowledge among 11 to 18 years olds about their body, sexuality, gender, consent, and healthy relationships, knowledge which determine their physical and emotional well-being. Sex education is mostly related to a biological function. But we are talking about more broadly about sexuality education, which also involves relationships, personal feelings, individuals, and societal values. I would say that formalized sexual education is very important and has to become even more important because of rapid spread in social media, the internet, the mobile phone technology, which brings enormous positive and negative potentials, but it is of concern giving risk of access to online pornography that has come with it. All the developments that have triggered the need for good societal, good quality sexuality education. Formalized sexual education will enable young people to deal with the sexuality in a safe and satisfactory manner. Formalized mandatory sexuality education in school is important, first of all, to reach children and young people and to provide them with evidence based information and not just things they hear or just rumors and stuff. With the proper training and staffing in schools, these can be very safe spaces and learning environment for discussions on sexuality. Teachers and schools can be, can become the skilled and trusted sources of information. We should support formalized and mandatory sexuality education, but of course, I have to say that children and young people need both formal and informal sexuality education, and these two should not be opposed. They should complement each other. Lastly, I would like to say ignorance does not do any good. Thank you. You're muted.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I'm very bad at technology. Okay, but yeah. So B21, do you have a rebuttal question for B20?
Yes, ma'am. B20, like you said that
Yeah, go ahead.
informal sexuality should also be conducted, then don't you think that that will have a huge number of adverse effects on the society as well as the person getting the education?
Like I said, ignorance does not do any good. So schools do not introduce sex. Sex is all around us and our children. It is the source of life itself. Children and adolescents need to learn about sex to protect themselves from both society, the media, and the peers. If school, religions, and parents do not want to talk about sex, then young adults will find other ways to discover it, regardless of how much you control their exposure to it. Their curiosity can lead to researching pornographic sites or experimentation and can allow negative peer influence to take over. Many of these routes lead to skewed images of what sex is and what does it do rather than the meaning behind it. Responsible adults should inspire responsible adolescents and simply, instead of just simply brushing the issue under the carpet, does no good to a growing individual.
Thank you, B20, for your answer. Judges, do you have any questions for B20? No questions for B20? Okay. So I'll move on to B21. B21, you will be speaking against the motion. Are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let me just start the timer. Yeah, you can go ahead.
Good afternoon, honorable judges and all the competitors present here. My name is Suryavardhan Singh, and today I am quite eager to present my talk against the motion. Coming directly on the topic, a lot of reports of sexual abuse come from the people who are engaged in the sexual education. Under circumstances, it appears to be very uncomfortable to let the child learn about sex from them. Of course, not all the teachers are like this, but when incidences like this are on the rise, it might even give such people an access to manipulate with minds and their bodies. Learning about sex before they are mature enough to handle relationships, I think logically might even ignite the curiosity leading to even more immortal behavior. Despite being of the same ages, not child are all alike. Some are more mature, while some are still childish, far away from the realities. Children are like molten metal that is shaped according to what it is taught to them. The talks of sexuality transmitted diseases like AIDS, etc., might even make the scare of sex. Hence, it might lead them to an abnormal life. Many families are also not comfortable with their children studying this, for example, how to have sexual intercourse or how to use a condom in schools due to moral issues. It can even cause conflicts with the faith participated in the practiced in the family. The details of sexual intercourse, human anatomy, etc., may turn to the classes into jokes and way of harassment of young girls. They might even become more insensitive to the feeling of love, truth, and respect. Instead of focusing on their career, they may give much time to fun and frolic in safe sex. The incidents may gradually rise, which is unacceptable in Indian society. Hence, despite of giving a positive impact, the rise of teenage pregnancies can take place. This these are also chances that the partners can harm each other misknowingly. Hence, children at the school must taught to love, respect each other, whereas sex education must be not implemented in the schools. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, B21, for your argument. So, B20, do you have a rebuttal question for B21?
Yes, I do. My question to B21 is that a study has shown that access to condoms and contraceptions have decreased teen pregnancies, in fact, not increased them. And also another point, overpopulation is a major problem in India, and it is caused mostly due to unsafe sex. And to talk about even safe sex, you need to talk about sex first. And sex itself is considered a taboo. Future is more important than present morals. Government should make sex education mandatory. And what are your thoughts about this?
I think that what I said was that when in teenagers are asked about safe sex, then some of them who are a bit mature uh, try of thinking more and more about it, and they get engaged in it and try to learn more and more and get more information to this that can also result in practicing. That's why and condom also don't have 100% success rate in the prevention. So while the practicing can take place, a much more impact can be put on the children, and the curiosity can also increase. That's very harmful for our society. Thank you.
Thank you, B21. So, we move on to judges. Judges, do you have any questions for B21?
Yes,
I Yeah, you
you
go
can go
ahead.
ahead.
Okay, fine, I'll
Okay.
go ahead. No, okay, yeah, let me just go ahead. I just wanted to clarify something before asking my question. Is B21? Do you think having teenagers engaging in safe sex, stress on the safe, is good or wrong or bad? Just to clarify, is that good or do you think that's bad?
So I think it's not good because there should be a particular age for that, and I think that age must be above 18. And for teenagers, curiosity as well as eagerness is a lot in the teenagers. That's why even safe sex must not be considered between them.
Okay,
Thank you.
but if you want only people above 18 to be engaging in sex, when do you want to teach them about sex? When were they supposed to learn about this? It's okay to have your belief. I don't have like any problem with that. But if you're saying, ki people above 18 only should be engaging in sex, when do they learn about sex then?
I think that must take the education about that must take place at the end of our teenaging years. That's nearby 17 or 18 only. And the age for the marriage as well as that all must be increased a bit. And because teenagers, as I told, have a lot of curiosity as my experience and eagerness, then that's a bit harmful for the later life.
Okay. All right. Thanks for clarifying. Thank you.
Okay, so B21, my question for you is that you said
Yes,
that
ma'am. Please go
they,
ahead with the question.
yeah, so you said that teenagers have curiosity. So don't you think if we don't told them about this situation about sex and all, so it will lead to more curiosity and they will go in some places from where they shouldn't have learned. So don't you think it should be okay to implement these strategies in school instead of letting teenagers to learn from somewhere else, which is harmful?
Ma'am, I think that the places like you are talking about somewhere else, a strict action must be taken on them instead of insisting the children. Those people or the who are putting that wrong places from where the child can learn that all must be stopped as the government guidelines, and the child should go with a constant place and no other nowhere else he must even listen about sex education and all that. That's later.
Um, can I ask another question?
Thank you.
I'm so sorry, but I'm really on a time constraint. So, yeah, I'm so sorry. Okay, so we'll move forward now. So B30, are you here with us? B30, yeah. So you'll be for the motion, and you can start speaking in three, two, one. Start speaking.
At school, where we learn about planets, our solar system, our nature, animals, wildlife, our economy, and our nation, why can't we learn about our own body? Namaskar to one and all. Today, I will that we expressing our views in favor of today's motion. Sex education should be mandatory. There's a policy adopted by society that there are certain things need to be taught to kids and there are certain things don't need to be taught to kids. There are certain things that they pick along the way. But how? While curious teenage minds always want to know where these come from, they learn it through their friends who are as younger than to gossip and through incognito mode internet searching. But this isn't going to give them safe facts and proper information in an ethical, scientific, and practical way. And that's what exactly they need. While going through puberty with hormones, mental, the question is simple. Why can't the education system step in and tell the kids what they actually need to know? For that, we first need to understand what sex education is. It is high quality learning and teaching on a broad variety of topics related to one's sex and sexuality. And it doesn't only teach us about proper and safe sexual activity, or STDs, but also told kids about how their bodies work, menstruation, puberty, and a very crucial topic called consent. Many would say that children should simply rely on the internet for such things, and but according to a report by the UNICEF, only 5% of the youth in Bangladesh have access to proper internet resources, and when was unsupervised and unfiltered online content safe use for anyone? Many said that it is the parents who have the responsibility to teach kids about sex education. They do parents, yes, I do agree with them that parents do have the scope of teaching their kids about sex education, but do they? No. Because what is this? We live in a very internet society where the indiscriminate and internet usage is given to the parents as their broad spectrum. We wish that the children learn about these things um, automatically, and that is why it is necessary to think about it. Many would say that teaching children about history and sexuality would influence minimize narrative and racial content. But we have seen some countries, especially in the Asian education, where don't know about menstruation, sexuality, sex education, are more likely to get pregnant during the first year. Knowing sex education has been an effective tool in reducing teenage pregnancy. To conclude, I would say that we must realize the importance of sex education in high school as we realize the importance of good touch and bad touch in primary school. We're also being taught about it and it's super powerful. In my country, we are talking
B30, your time has B30, your time has come to an end. So first, I'd like to ask B31. Do you have a rebuttal question for B30?
No, thank you.
No. Okay. So we'll go on to the judges. Judges, do you have a question for B30? I guess we don't have a question for B30. So let's go on to B31. So let's go on to B31. B31, are you ready? You're going to be speaking against the motion.
Yes, I'm
Are you
ready.
ready?
Yes.
Okay. So your time. So take it away in three, two, one.
You can create something genius, but you have to get your timing right. So we've all heard that quote once in our lifetime till now, at least once. So this quote depicts the timing importance. The importance of timing is clearly depicted by this quote. This area of sex education is very sensitive, and especially because children are too young and immature to understand the gravity of this education, this impacts them psychologically and mentally. So, I strongly disagree with the point that this should be made mandatory. Sex education should be taught in schools. Moreover, the topic is taught with such awkwardness and the language is so formal that this defeats the sole purpose of us being educated about sex education. Almost 65% parents feel that yes, it is important to learn about this topic. But then, when further questioned, only half of them agree that this should be taught in school, and the other half says, no, this should not be taught in school. Now, this is sourced from gutmatcher.org. You can check their website. And why is that so? Firstly, because students come from different social and religious backgrounds, and this topic can hurt their social and religious sentiments. As traditionally, sex is the topic which is still considered as a taboo in our society. Secondly, this is the age to learn the core concepts like maths, science, geography, history, etc. And this is just not the age that you would indulge in sex or you will have to learn about it. You never would like to learn about something that you have to wait to practically feel it after 10 years down the line. So that's just not done with the children. That's not justice being delivered. Secondly, at age when we are made to learn such concepts, we should not be learning sex education because we still have to wait a lot of time to indulge in that. And as my worthy opponent as the first opponent rightly said, that hygiene, she also concluded the point of hygiene. I would just like to say that hygiene and the morally said sex education, the both the points are completely different. We should not mismatch hygiene with sex education. Both are completely different. And the last question to you all would be, I would like to conclude it by saying sex education is so important, as you all feel it's so important. Then what about financial education, which is one of the core reasons why we are being sent to the school? What about financial literacy? If we are said that you have to learn about sex education, then why don't they teach us financial education? What about our financial literacy? You have all the time you need to answer those questions. You don't need to answer me, but just convince yourself with the answer that you have. Thank you.
Thank you, B31. A very well rounded argument, I should say. So, B30, do you have a rebuttal question for B31?
No,
Okay, so let's move on to the judges. Judges, would you like to ask B31 any questions?
Yeah. B31. I felt like your argument was quite good until the last point which you made about financial literacy. uh, I just can you maybe maybe I didn't understand the point right, but just clarify to me again. Yes, financial literacy is important. Yes, the lack of financial education in school has caused a lot of problems. But what does that have to do with sex education not being taught? I understood all your other points and I thought they were good, but this one point I just need some clarification. So could we just maybe phrase it differently?
Okay, so first of all, I'm sorry. I think I rushed with the last point. So I'll clarify it further. We are being taught about sex education. Like my younger brother, he's in class 6th right now, and he has even experienced the sessions which are teaching sex education. So at when you're about 11 or 12, you don't need to know about sexual orientations, about sex, about using condoms or contraceptive pills. He's literally 12. He's 12 and he's being taught such things. But whereas when he gets pocket money, he doesn't know how to spend it. He spends it on Kinder Joys, he spends it on Gems Ball, he spends it on everything, but he doesn't know how to save his money. So that is where financial literacy and financial education comes in. He needs to know how to save money, what to do with his money, how to properly utilize the money that he has. He doesn't need to learn about sex education. And financial literacy is just another example of the mandatory things that we should know at an early age, that we should be taught about at an early age, rather than being taught about such things that we'll experience 10 or 12 years down the line. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, that made a lot more sense because you had more time. All right, no problem. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Ma'am, any question?
No, no, no.
Okay, B31, I would like to ask a question actually. So, you mentioned about how we should study core concepts now, which is like geography and maths, and not learn about stuff that we might use way down the line. But it's more likely that a person will have sex than they will probably use some math equation down the line, or even like even in maybe 2 3 years. Not everybody chooses engineering, not everybody wants to be a doctor. Some people want to be content writers, some people want to do other things. So do you think that sex is more, that it is something that is more useful, it is going to be used more than math or geography?
Okay, so the basis of career building, like I am in the Armed Forces Preparatory Institute right now. So I am being taught core concepts, not because I would use them down the line, but because I need to make my career, I need to build my career from the base. I need to get my basis strong so that I could build a career on top of it. And you just can't have sex at 15 or 16. You have to wait till you're an adult, and career comes first, because when you just attain or achieve the age of adulthood, that is 17 or 18, the pressure of career comes in. You're less likely to be talking about sex rather than being talking about I need to build my career. People like me, we are right now focusing on career and we don't even think about sex that much. So we need to I'm not saying that we need to use maths equation everywhere, or we need to use geography tectonic theory everywhere. I'm just saying that we should first focus on things that have more importance, rather than focusing on things that would be pleasurable but are of no importance to us right now. We need to focus on things that we have in hand, because a bird in hand is better than two in bush.
Okay. Thank you, B31, for your answer. So, with this,
Thank
we
you.
come to the end of our debate. And I would just like to say thank you to everyone, to all the participants, to all the judges. Thank you for attending. Thank you for having a hearty discussion and on such a burning topic. And judges, would you like to give any last words to the participants?
Um, yeah, I think everyone did a really good job. I felt like there were a few people who actually did not like hold the belief that they were arguing for, and they held the opposite belief. But I think they really explained their points well, and yeah, good job, everyone. All the best for your results.
I would like to say is that whatever you all have views are really amazing, and it's nice to see everyone have different opinions. And all the best for the results.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everyone. So with this, I shall end the meeting. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you for giving the opportunity.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.